Hi, my name is John Chaney. This is my video for the lethal gift of livestock. So to get started, let's talk about what livestock is. So livestock is an animal you can raise and sell for either the production of food and materials or just to sell for profit. So for instance, you have cows, goats, sheep, horses, donkeys, pigs. Then you have some exotic ones too, like zebra, wildebeest, and, a lot from the African safari. I think buffalo is considered exotic now because it's endangered. I'm not for sure. Don't quote me on that. So now that we've discussed what livestock are, let's move on to the advantages and disadvantages. I will be hitting advantages first. So the first advantage I've written down is more stable food and material production. So when society was a hunter and gatherer society, they would go out and they would hunt for their livestock, whether they were hunting buffalo, cow, deer, just whatever. And while that works when you're in a small community, you also waste a lot of materials, which makes it more unstable. Plus, you're not guaranteed to come home with anything. I'm sure lots of you have gone hunting and came back empty-handed. So whenever you raise them, you have a more stable food and material supply because you know exactly where they are. You raised them from the day they were born. And that leads on to my next advantage. You get a larger food and material supply in return for raising. So you get a larger food and material supply because of that too, because whenever society was hunters and gatherers, they could only bring back what they can carry. You may kill a 300-pound bison. But if you don't have enough people there to carry all 300 pounds back, you're wasting. So, I mean, you're not going to be able to get as much meat off of the carcass as you can. You're going to waste the leather leaving it there. So, whenever you raise them, you have them in a centralized location. And surely by then you have a system set up for like butchers and leather workers and stuff like that. So, you can get more meat off of the animal and more leather off or whatever hide it is from the animal. And for like horses and cows, you can keep the hooves. I know those are used for glue and I think Jello. I can't remember what other stuff it is. For deer, you can use the antlers for handles. Same thing with bones of any animal. So you're going to get a lot. So because of that, you get the larger food and material production from it. You just don't waste as much. You have a system set out and probably better tools and stuff because of the system. And the third advantage is an economic market. Well, I'm not an economics major or anything along those lines. I know a little bit about supply and demand. And when you're a hunter-gatherer system, you're gonna have a high demand and low supply of animals, whether it's meat or materials from animals. So whenever you raise them in a group in a herd and you have it in your centralized area, you're going to have a way better economic market for them. I mean, demand's going to be up, but supply will also be up. You're going to have a great supply of whether it's meat, leather, antlers, bone, hooves, whatever it is. You're going to be able to you're going to be able to supply the demand that's required, which will help your economic market and the livestock industry as well as the economic market in your country. So that's one good advantage of it. Moving on to the disadvantages, the first one I have is breeding ground for disease. I mean, yes, you have them in a central area. Well, you may have 200,000 acres set aside, but like in Texas, where my hometown is, I want to say it's one cow per 3 acres. You're going to maximize that. If you have 200,000 acres, you're going to try to fit as many cattle you have on there, which in return, and feedlots are even a different thing. They don't even follow the cow per acre equation. They just pack them all in there and feed them as much as they can. So whenever you're doing that, I mean, all their piss and shit is just on the ground. So That's a breeding ground for flies and dune bugs and where are they called? The poop beetles. I mean, it's a breeding ground for insects and various other nasty things that you don't really want around you. Which that leads on to my second disadvantage. Easier to lose livestock through disease. While that's a breeding ground for human diseases, it's also a breeding ground for animal diseases. And when you have them all packed into a pen, it's going to be way easier for, let's use blackleg disease, for example. While blackleg does come from a fungus that grows on the ground, that's usually activated by being trampled on and releasing spores into the air. It is contagious. So when you have one cow infected, it's not going to take long for all the other cows to get infected too. So that's another disadvantage on it, which if they get infected, if you don't act quick, you lose half your herd right there, which will be half of the year's profits, half of the food supply for your city or town, or if you're in modern day America, for the whole country. So it's a disadvantage, but that's something that can be worked around. And that's all I have for the lethal gift of livestock.